Shelf Matters. I'm Anna Srivastava, Marketing and Communications Manager with Kaval. And we have with us today Ali Scale. Ali is Communications and Marketing Manager with Informit. Welcome, Ali. Welcome to Shelf Matters.
Hi, Anna. Thanks so much for having me today.
It's so great to have you today. I'm so excited. And it takes me back to the first conversation we had a little over a year ago, I think, when we discussed everything. Like it was such a broad range of topics we covered for the very first time we were talking to each other, from raising our toddler boys to raising funds for library initiatives. Like it was such a broad range. So I thought it would be fitting to bring some of that conversation just to the wider audiences of Shelf Matters. So let's begin, Ali. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for that intro, Anna. And I do remember that day because I think we just jumped straight in and we just connected straight away because we had so much common ground. And I think that's often the case with marketers, isn't it? And particularly within our industry. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that today. We are often in small teams, or we might even be on our own in a small organization. So once you meet that other marketer, it's almost like you meet eyes across the room. And you just connect straight away, and you don't have the rest of the fluffy, small talk. You just get straight to business. So I loved that chat, and I was new to the industry too. So you gave me such a lovely welcome.
You are currently working with Informit. So, what is the current role like? And when we talk about Informit, how would you define it? Where does Informit sit in the glamour sector?
Yeah, as you mentioned, I'm the comms and marketing manager in Informit, and I've been there for almost coming up a whole year now. So I'm quite new to the glamour industry, and I couldn't think of a better acronym actually. And Informit, we probably sit in the information services sector more broadly, but the way that we fit into the glamour acronym would be more probably the R, and sometimes that might be records or research. Not only do we just sit in the information services sector, I think kind of like Kaval, we work across many different communities. We've got, around 700 publishers that we partner with. We work, of course, very closely with libraries. We work within the research and scholarly communities. So we're working across many different communities. So while we are providing, obviously, a service and we're in the information services sector, it's a lot broader than that. So it's a really interesting and creative place to be as a communications person, as a marketer. So no day is ever boring. And I think you'll attest to that, Anna, because Kaval's very much the same with your membership base and the work that you do. A lot of what you do is connect within many different communities too. So I think that's probably why we hit it off as well, is being in really similar positions. We've been around for over 30 years and we started in the RMIT University Library. So a lot of people don't realise that. We're a part of RMIT training now. So we're still based within that RMIT community. And we're owned by RMIT too. We've been connected within that space. We've been connected to libraries this whole time. And that's who we work mostly with. So yeah, as a digital research platform or database, we host a diverse range of authoritative Australasian content. So that might be anything from a peer-reviewed article to, literacy piece. We've got book reports. We've also got multimedia. So we've got many products, EduTV, TV news are multimedia products. So we've got video as well as full text. So there's a really broad range. So we've got an exciting new product, which is Informit Explore. And so that's actually for public libraries and for secondary schools. So it's the first time that we've worked with an audience of lifelong learners, an audience of younger students at the secondary school level. So that's really exciting for us. So for us, it's about broadening our audience now. While I didn't have a background in the information services industry, I have worked in education, particularly in international education, for over 15 years. So I've always been in the education space. So it's education adjacent. So for me, it wasn't too much of a shock to sort of move industries, if you want to say that. But I also did my master's and with a focus in professional writing and literature and you can see the books behind. They're not fake, they're real books. I'm a book lover. I'm obsessed. Libraries are such incredible spaces. They're safe spaces. The librarians are amazing to me in everything that they do as keepers and holders and sharers of knowledge. So for me, I kind of thought, well, I don't have to go too far out of the education industry that I've come from. I get to sort of mix something that's a love and an interest and a lifelong love for me, which is, books and reading and ideas, and critical thinking. And here comes Informit. So it was kind of one of those fortuitous things. So it's just funny the way that your career works and why you end up in a place that you do. But yeah, that's kind of how I arrived at Informit. So it's really exciting times to be there.
This small core team at Informit or at Kawad, and you see there's so much happening behind the scenes. There's so much happening. As you said, there's never a dull day. And you just mentioned how you've already worked with certain industries which Informit currently deals with. So it was an organic sort of move for you. Since you worked with those overlapping or related industries, is there a marketing playbook you could just apply and, does it work like that? Are there set of rules that you could bring?
That's really interesting. I think because my experience previously has been in international education, I think the role of a communications person or a marketing person in that industry is obviously to work within diverse communities, so culturally diverse communities. So your playbook has to account for that as a marketer, and as a communicator. So, for example, when we were ever putting together campaigns, we had to obviously do a lot of research into those different audiences that we were working with internationally. So we couldn't use Australian jargon or the slang and things like that necessarily in those kind of campaigns. And interestingly, I think there's an amazing piece that Informit works towards around diversity too. So they obviously really believe, and one of their missions is to promote diversity in publishing. And so that's bibliodiversity and to encourage that. So, but I think another exciting piece that Informit's working on is our First People's Lens initiatives. So the idea behind that, we host a broad range of academic Indigenous publications. So for us, we want to amplify Indigenous-led research, and that's really important and key component of what Informit is doing. More broadly, that's more about talking directly to audiences. For me, or I guess something that motivates me as a marketer, is marketing with purpose. Actually coming to work for an organization that isn't just about providing a service, that has, an actual vision to maybe create impact with the communities that they work in. And to our audience, meaning being a little bit more than just a service provider, showing our audience and our community what we believe in, what we stand for. So I think that marketing with purpose playbook is about creating authentic connections with community. And that's something that I have brought from previous industry into this one, because I think that's really suited to the model that Informit sits within. To be honest, it's not just our industry. I think audiences are really savvy now, or customers or consumers or whatever you want to call them. They want their brand to stand for something, and they want their brand to be meaningful. And I think there's an expectation out there. And I think with the advent of digital technology and social media and all the different channels we work across now, that's what's expected. So as a brand, if you're just always pushing out product and sales, I think your audience is going to switch off really quickly. So for me, it's about storytelling, building genuine connections, and actually driving marketing with purpose, rather than marketing, just for a sale or bums on seats or whatever you want to call it.
I'm glad you said that because um, in the especially in the current times when we're talking about AI, and this is actually the most interesting times for marketers to show how building human connections and storytelling can really separate you, can really help your organization stand out. So in these times, especially if you can personalize your campaigns, if you can, as you said, bring that human touch in your communications and marketing, and just yes, everything has to be ROI, but human emotions and connections and personalization would be the key, and the organizations who crack that would be successful, in my opinion. So I totally agree with you that these are the times to do some marketing with purpose. And that sort of answers the next question that I was going to ask you, like partially, that what brings you joy? What keeps you going as a marketer every day?
I think there's many different types of marketers. So there can be sort of data-driven marketers, analytics driven marketers, creative marketers, design-savvy marketers. Like there's lots of different types, and that's not to stereotype anyone, but we're all different in what motivates us and makes us want to get out of bed in the morning. I'm really sort of attracted to the creative side of marketing, and having that space to connect with people, through creative ways. So I think that's something that motivates me.
Kaval and Informit co-convene the symposium, the Kummargii Yulendji Symposium, and we see how you know easy it is to work with you all, and we enjoy working with that core team at Informit, and we are a small team here. So when you talk about creativity, I totally agree with, and we could see that um, at Informit. And you just spoke about a little bit about the challenges that happen with the smaller and even the larger organizations. Could you just elaborate a bit more?
Yeah, it's really interesting that you bring up the Kummargii Yulendji Symposium that we both co-convened, Informit and Conval, because that really sort of harks back to marketing with purpose, doesn't it? Really, because the idea behind that was to create a space for a lot of representatives from the publishing and library sector to come together, and to talk about the indigenisation of libraries. And I think that was so successful because we created a space for those authentic conversations to happen. And we'd never run it before, right? And so we aligned it with Social Sciences Week. It was this incredible alignment. But when you haven't done something for the first time, I think an amazing thing to do is to partner with an equally incredible organization like yourselves in as Caval to drive something like that, because really it was a mini conference, wasn't it? A full day symposium, amazing speakers and panels, but quite a big meaty event to sink your teeth in, as a marketer doing it for the very, very first time. And I think you can see from the survey results and everything after that symposium how well it was received. When we talk about challenges, what would my main challenge be as a marketer or communicator in a small organization? It's obviously sort of, I guess, not having a team. So for me, I am the marketing and comms team, and I am obviously one person. So what does that mean? I'm the PR person. I write the emails. I do all the marketing. I do all the communications and the social media channels and you name it. So anyone who's in that position, and I imagine there might be quite a lot in the glamour sector, you can understand the challenges of trying to be all things to all people. I suppose with that challenge, what I always try to do is just build connections, and that even might be within the industry. So yourself, to bounce ideas off, or even within Informit itself, because I suppose I'm very used to working within a much bigger team, rather than being sort of the solo person. So I'm used to sort of bouncing around ideas and things like that. So for me, when I started Informit, it was about connecting internally with stakeholders, and also more broadly the RMIT training comms team, to actually have that support and get that advice, because I've been that one person. And then obviously time management. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think our space is always moving too, isn't it? So we're always going to have to be constantly learning, constantly upskilling, because there's new platforms and new tools that arrive on our desk every day. So I think that's an exciting part though, and that's something that I love. Like you said, it's never going to be boring when you're a marketer in this industry.
I think it's also how the lines are blurring, as you said. You find yourself doing almost everything from marketing to comms to PR, and they're all different. And yet the understanding the sector has is different. Like every person in the sector has a different understanding of marketing, which is not wrong. But then with that comes a set of expectations, because and
Yeah.
that is where the whole piece about education comes in. Like, how do we as marketers come together, with conversations like today, the one that we're having right now, to educate the industry that this is what a marketer does, and we need to work hand in hand with the sector. Like, it has to be a collaborative effort. That brings me to the next question that we spoke about the human angle and the personalization and the creativity, the storytelling, and what is the next interesting thing you're looking forward to? Is there anything, any emerging trend that you are looking forward to experiment with?
Yeah, great question. I love and everything that you've just said. I just completely agree with. I think traditionally, maybe the role of marketer within organizations or within a sector has been quite narrow. And so I think that often our job is to sort of re-educate, maybe even internally first, before we even go more broadly to the sector, exactly what the role of a marketer is and what we can do. For example, I often find, when I've been in and out of a few different workplaces, marketing is sometimes viewed as a service. And it's something that you just bring in at the end. So, for example, if you're developing a product or some sort of strategy, you go through maybe a 12-month research piece where you're researching that all. And then you talk to sales about how you're going to sell the thing, and then you actually go to launch it and you go, oh gosh, got no marketing collateral. Oh, better contact marketing. So sometimes that's the way it works. And I'm not dissing that model. It can be a model that might work for a certain organization. But I think if that's the way that you're working, you're probably not getting the best out of your marketing people, because really what marketing can be is a holistic thing. So you could bring marketing in from the start to have those conversations about shaping product. I think within an industry, something that I think the international education sector in particular is incredible with is creating SIGs or special interest groups around topics. For example, when I was in the industry, IEAA is one of the industry bodies that really leads the charge in that area. And so I think that would be incredible if anyone out there would want to be interested in creating something like that, because I think it's a way for us to collaborate, make connections, and sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel all the time, or maybe there's a product or an idea, the symposium, that can't be achieved by one organization, but the partnering of two organizations, you can really, really meet all the needs and the values there. So I think you're spot on with what you're saying there. In terms of where we're looking to go with Informit in the marketing space, something I'm excited about is testing out new channels, because we are reaching a younger audience we have never sort of reached under 18. So those secondary school students. When we launched Informit Explore, the new product I was talking about earlier, which is a large Australian research database with learning tools that's actually going to combat misinformation and encourage critical thinking in secondary school students. When we launched that, back in May, we had an incredible keynote speaker, Alan from Beacon Hills College, who talked to us about what teenage researchers are doing these days, which was incredible. And he was talking about the fact that they spend, I can't remember the exact percentage, so don't quote me on this, but it's something around 90% of their time doing research. And what's that research and where are they going? They're on YouTube. They're on TikTok. They're actually researching topics that are interesting to them. And when he sort of put that stat up on the screen, I was quite bowled over, because I think, older generations, I call myself an elder millennial, let's just say that. But we look at younger generations and we don't understand, all the types of channels they're using, but they are incredibly smart. For me, that's what we'll be looking for in 2025 is, I guess, doing a fit health check of where our channels are at now. And they're great and they're reaching our audiences we've always reached for 30 years. But if we are wanting to reach new audiences, then we might need to change our social media strategy to meet that, and also our content strategy. So outside of social media, blogs and that kind of thing. And what you're doing here with Shelf Matters with Kaval is just a perfect example. Like, you're doing this podcast and you're reaching out to thought leaders in the industry, and you're adding value by doing that. And so I think that's, I'm really wanting to focus on content, but valuable content.
One in, one out. Like, we don't have to be on all the channels. So even review may get, discontinue a channel and jump onto another one because it fits the audiences. So it's perfect strategy. Yeah. And then as you speak about the next generation and reaching out to this newer audiences and younger audiences, how do we get them to get into our industry? So the young graduates, young marketing graduates, um, do they even know about the sector that we are in, and what kind of work is being done?
That's a great question. And again, I think I'm just going to have to quote Alan James from Beacon Hills College. He said he feels for secondary school students and new high school graduates now because there's so many options out there. There's so many different careers, and often he was saying at our launch that the messaging that students often get, high school students get, is that you might have a portfolio of careers across your life that might include 12, 13 different types of jobs, roles, industries. And he said, gosh, how exhausting that messaging must be. And he was saying, I think what young people want today is clarity more than anything because there's so much noise. So I think cutting through the noise and actually going out to schools and talking to careers counselors and getting there in the classroom and talking to students just about what your experience was getting into the industry. And if someone is like us, Anna, and loves books and reading and always has even from a child that book out in their laps, they're probably thinking more traditionally. They're probably thinking, I might be a librarian, they might work in publishing, that kind of thing. I might be an author myself, and all those are very valid options. They probably don't think about, the information services sector or the organisations that support librarians to do great work. Probably as well to encourage someone into our industry, I would talk about all the things that we've talked about today, the creativity, it's never boring, that you'll be able to create a niche for yourself. You will have that kind of scope to make the job your own. If you are a creative person, it's a great industry to work with because it's an industry of ideas as well. And we're always throwing ideas back and forth. So if you are, a teenage researcher and you love to constantly be that lifelong learner and you're always sort of chasing the next topic and you're interested in delving in, we get to work across ideas in our industry, and that's so exciting. As a young person, I was very much the same. I liked working within that context of ideas. So yeah, if we can get out there and get out into schools and start talking to students directly, it's incredible on what they're already doing. The amount of information they are taking in compared to even when we grew up is quite incredible. So they are having to process a lot more and take in a lot more noise. I sort of feel for them. I think it would be exhausting as well. So, we just have to find ways to cut through that and speak directly to them. But I think it's a great opportunity. I guess the other thing I would say, I always put my hand up to volunteer when I was, a fresh graduate because I wanted to get, again, like a job on paper. Is so different to a job in reality. So I think as a young person, if you can, volunteer or if you can intern or have a casual position just to get a taste of different industries, do it. Don't lock yourself in because there might be something out there that you didn't think would be for you, but it is. Sometimes we're just attracted to things we're good at, but then we get into that industry and it doesn't motivate us on a deep level. So you think, well, I'm good at this, but I don't want to get up in the morning and do it. So I think, for young people, they just need to experiment with different careers and do that volunteering and see what's for them.
Lovely chatting with you. Is there anything else you would want to add to the conversation?
We always like to work together. And I guess I just say thank you for being a wonderful partner. And I know we're working on the Kummargii Yulendji Symposium again this year, September 12th. Save the date. I've got to do one plug. I can't be a marketing person, get on a podcast and not plug something.
Do that,
I
totally.
think tickets will be available end of July, start of August. Get on board if you're interested in the topics that we'll be covering. We're working on the program at the moment where we'll be going through all the expressions of interest that we're collecting. from different universities and libraries across the sector to be presenting, doing workshops, that kind of thing. So yeah, get on board. It'll be happening during Social Sciences Week. Conval Informit will be there. It's at RMIT this year, Story Hall. So it's going to be bigger and better this year. So it's exciting times. So definitely look into that if you're listening to this, if you've made it this far in the podcast.